and we actually even said we thought we would be getting about 150. This group organized last fall, and it was actually our delegate, Roger Fletcher, who was instrumental in getting this group together. And at that time, we thought that we might be having Syrian refugees imminently. And we thought, and we actually even said, we thought we would be getting about 150 immigrants, and that some of them would be coming to Morgantown. At this point in time, we don't know if we are getting immigrants or refugees. It's all up to the Homeland Security. Since the events in Paris in November, things have slowed down a little bit. But we had already planned for this meeting, and we thought it was important to go ahead and have the meeting so that if and when we get refugees, we'll have some sense of preparedness for their arrival.
What we wanted to accomplish was to provide a background on Syria and Syrians and on the refugees.
So Syria has been under continuous dictatorship since 1963, and then under Assad dictatorship since 1970. So it's been a long period of oppression. However, this lasted for more than 40 years, and people in Syria on March 15, 2011, they decided to change. They cannot take it anymore. So they started a peaceful demonstration. They wanted some change. And they were asking for reformation, freedom, and democracy, something that we get granted here.
Before the current dictator's father, right, he took over during a coup in 1970s. Before that, Syria was a democracy. There was a protection of all minorities in Syria. Syria has traditionally been one of the safest countries in the Middle East for all minorities. And you can see this with the Druze population. You can see this with the Christian population. There are 3 villages within Syria that I've visited. They are the only villages left in the Middle East that speak the same dialect of Jesus Christ, peace be upon him. The only villages that still speak that same version of the language. And so these minorities have lived here throughout the ages. And people want to say, oh, they're constantly in a fight, right? They're always fighting in the Middle East. It wasn't always like this. It wasn't always like this. And there is something that is universal that all humans want, and it's dignity. And I guess that's the answer to the question. What they're fighting for is dignity. And they refuse to listen to this dichotomy between terrorist or dictatorship. Because my father immigrated here as a physician. If he hadn't immigrated here, I can guarantee you I would have been there fighting for dignity and freedom. And that's what I think every American would have done. Thank you.
We also wanted to help people understand what would be involved in sponsoring a refugee and encouraging groups to form and to get us that information so that we'll have a network, of people to be in contact with and to go forward.
At this time, Linda Haggerty is going to talk about refugee resettlement and sponsorship.
So it's time to talk about the process of actually receiving refugees, should we be able to do that. And we want to talk about sponsorship. What is sponsorship? Sponsorship of refugees is when we help them become acclimated and settled into their new communities. And it's required by the federal government that every refugee family that comes must have a sponsor before they enter the country. This is carried out through the Federal Office of Refugee Resettlement, who partner with regional social service agencies that are responsible for matching refugees with local sponsors. In our state, Catholic Charities of West Virginia, with the headquarters located in Charleston, is the agency that receives refugees and works with local folks like we may be. So, moving on, what is the obligation of the sponsor? Well, it's important to note that there are no legal or financial obligations of being a sponsor, but it is a moral commitment that the group would make to take their responsibility seriously. Who can be a sponsor? And in the past, it's been traditional that it is a faith group of one kind or another. It could be a parish, a synagogue, a church, a mosque, and it doesn't have to be a faith group. It could be a civic organization. But there has to be a group that can gather together as a team and commit themselves to working together. It is apparent that a team approach works best. I'd like to ask Karen Allen to join me because Karen is the chair of our Resources Committee.
We're looking for groups that will sponsor these refugees. We want you to know that we have a very active committees that are here to support any sponsor. So if you're part of a fellowship, you want to go back and try to get a group in your fellowship community group to sponsor a refugee or a refugee family. We want you to know that we have a large committee here that's got resources to help you. You're not just going to be starting from scratch.
Honestly, it's just so touching seeing so many people here just caring for the Syrian cause and wanting to know more about it. I think it reflects sort of what it means to be a West Virginian and caring about all the people in the world and your neighbors and understanding everybody. And I think there are a lot of similarities between the people, right? And that's something that's important, is building these bridges and allowing everybody to know what happened in Syria and what's happening right now and what we can do to help.